Welcome to the Deep Dive Cast. This is where we unpack the world's most impactful business and self-help bestsellers. Get ready to go beyond the pages and transform your life. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's start with a number. In 2016, about 4.2 million babies died before their first birthday. Sounds absolutely tragic, right?
It is tragic, but here's the twist. The late Hans Rosling, the public health expert, actually called that same number beautifully small.
Beautifully small. How can a number like that be both? That contradiction really gets us into today's deep dive, what Rosling termed the size instinct.
Exactly. It's this really powerful mental error. Our minds are just easily fooled by big numbers when they stand alone.
Right.
So our goal here is to help you sharpen that skill of seeing proportion. It's fundamental if you want a fact-based view of the world.
So what exactly is the size instinct, and why is it so, effective at twisting how we see things? Because big numbers are impressive.
They are. Our brains latch onto them.
Billions spent, millions affected. You see those headlines everywhere. Media, advertisers, politicians, they know how to use them.
Absolutely. That's the cognitive bias right there. We misjudge scale, we misjudge importance, just based on a standalone figure. And it ties into other instincts, like the negativity instinct.
Oh, so?
Well, think about it. 4.8 million child deaths. That's a huge, scary number. It feels urgent, newsworthy.
Yeah.
Compare that to the positive trend. Global child mortality dropped over 60% since 1990. It's massive progress.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hit our fear buttons the same way.
Yeah.
The big, scary, absolute number wins.
Our brains take shortcuts. Rosling had a term for these numbers, right? Lonely numbers.
Lonely numbers, yeah. Just fragments of data.
Yeah.
Our instincts grab them and kind of inflate them into these misleading stories. And when the media amplifies them,
It creates this distorted reality that feels true just because it's loud.
it does. And it's surprisingly hard to push back against. Rosling even saw this in his own work.
The Mozambique story.
Yeah, early in his career, he was a doctor there. And he was quite proud, actually, that his hospital was saving a high percentage of the really sick kids they admitted.
Okay, sounds good so far.
Right. But that was an isolated success number. When he stepped back and looked at the whole district,
Whoa.
he realized hundreds more kids were dying outside the hospital. Simple, preventable things. His focus on that one positive number, the hospital's rate, had blinded him to the much, much bigger problem in the community.
Wow. That really does bring it home. A single number obscuring the real issue.
Exactly.
So let's use that lens on child mortality today. The UN estimates, 4.8 million kids under 5 died in 2023. Tragic, no question.
Absolutely tragic, but it's an absolute number. It needs context.
So compare, what does history tell us?
Well, compare it to, say, 2015, that was nearly 6 million. Go back to 1990, it was 12.8 million.
What's 0.8 million?
And 1950, 14.4 million. Suddenly, that 4.8 million, while still a tragedy, sits within this context of enormous historical progress.
Okay, so comparing helps. What about dividing? You mentioned rates earlier.
Crucial step. Divide to find the rate. The global under 5 mortality rate, deaths per 1,000 live births, fell from 93 back in 1990 to 37 in 2023.
That's a huge drop.
It's a 61% reduction. The rate adjusts for population growth, so it gives you the clearer picture. You have to hold both things in your head, the ongoing tragedy and the incredible progress.
So Rosling gave us tools to fight this size instinct. The first one seems obvious now. Compare.
Always compare.
Yeah.
A lonely number should make you suspicious. Always ask, compare to what? Like your example?
Yeah.
Crime up 20%.
Yeah.
Okay, but did the population also grow 20%? Maybe the rate didn't change at all.
Good point. What's tool number 2?
The 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
You know, the Pareto principle.
Ah, right.
In most lists, a small number of items, maybe 20%, account for the vast majority, like 80% of the total effect. Think global energy.
Okay.
You have a long list of sources, but just 3, oil, coal, and gas, make up about 87% of the total consumption. Knowing that helps you focus. It helps you see where the real leverage points are.
Find the big hitters. Makes sense. And the third tool, it sounds like it connects back to the child mortality example.
It does. Divide to find the rate. Rates are usually more meaningful than absolute numbers.
Like with the swine flu panic.
Exactly. Back in 2009, there was something like 8,200 news articles per death from swine flu. Meanwhile, tuberculosis, which killed vastly more people,
Hardly any coverage.
received about 0.1 articles per death. Dividing shows you that huge disproportion driven by fear, not actual impact. Or think CO2 emissions using per capita figures is the only fair way to compare countries.
Okay, so wrapping this up. The size instinct uses lonely numbers to mislead you.
but you can fight back.
How? By actively looking for context. Compare and divide. Numbers need proportion.
So the first actionable things for you, the listener, develop that divide by what? Reflex. See a big number, billions spent, thousands affected, instantly ask, divide by what? Out of how many? What's the rate per person? What's the percentage?
Become an active analyst, not just a passive receiver of number.
Exactly. And the second takeaway.
Always find a comparison. Don't just react. Ask, how does this compare to last year or to a similar place? What's the trend?
It forces a more nuanced view.
So, final thought then. Taming the size instinct. It isn't about being blindly optimistic, is it?
Not at all. It's about seeing reality clearly. The world has huge challenges, absolutely. But it also shows incredible, measurable progress. Putting numbers in proportion helps you see both.
And that lets you allocate your worry, maybe your resources, your hope, more effective.
Precisely. It helps you build a clearer, more constructive picture of the world we actually live in. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a really fascinating aspect of how our brains work, the generalization instinct. Our mission really is to unpack how this essential cognitive tool, which is, incredibly necessary for survival,
Absolutely vital.
can sometimes become a bit of a mind blocker for understanding the world as it truly is. We're drawing insights from our work on the Factfulness Unfiltered, the generalization instinct breakdown.
And what's so interesting, I think, is how this instinct, it rarely acts alone.
Right.
It often forms this powerful, sometimes quite destructive partnership with another one, the gap instinct.
Ah, that tendency to split things into two extremes.
Exactly, that binary thinking.
Yeah.
And when those two team up, well, we end up creating these really rigid black and white categories.
And then fill them with stereotypes, essentially.
Pretty much. Uniform, often misleading characteristics.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. The danger really emerges when our mental categories become too rigid, too simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
It transforms what should be a useful shortcut into, well, a source of harmful stereotypes sometimes.
It's like an evolutionary mismatch, really. Our brains evolved for quick sorting in simpler times.
But our modern world is just so complex.
Far more complex
Yeah.
and interconnected.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting for me. Maybe the most pervasive example is how Africa is treated.
Oh, definitely. As a single entity.
Exactly, like a monolith. Remember the Ebola outbreak in West Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone?
I do. Tragic.
But the impact, tourism dropped significantly
Yeah.
in Kenya.
Which is just miles away.
It's 5,000 kilometers, farther than London to Tehran. It just shows how warped our mental maps can get.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, the data, it completely shatters that monolith idea.
How so?
Well, the economic diversity within Africa is immense. You've got level 1 countries like Madagascar, GNI per capita around, $490, extreme poverty.
Okay.
But then you have level 3 countries like Mauritius, GNI per capita nearly $10,000. That's similar to some Eastern European nations.
Wow. So completely different realities within the same continent.
Vastly different.
And it's not just about continents, is it?
Mm.
This instinct trips us up elsewhere. That tragic story from 1985 you mentioned.
Yes, the pediatricians. It's a stark reminder. They had the best intentions, truly.
Of course.
But they generalized from military medicine, putting unconscious soldiers on their stomachs to prevent choking.
Right. Makes sense for soldiers, maybe.
But they advised parents worldwide to do the same for healthy babies. They failed to see the critical difference between an unconscious adult and a vulnerable infant.
A huge public health mistake, as the source called it.
It really was. It underscores how crucial context is. Even highly educated professionals can misapply knowledge if they don't look for differences across groups.
And it's not just professionals. Our own lives, especially, say, if you're living comfortably in a level 4 country, that shapes our view too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like those Swedish medical students our source mentioned.
Ah, yes, the hospital visit.
They saw a level 2 hospital functional, life-saving, but with unpainted walls.
And immediately thought,
Extreme poverty. They completely missed the context. That unpainted wall meant the limited budget was rightly spent on medicine, on staff, on saving lives. It was actually a sign of smart priorities, of progress.
not a sign of failure. They generalized their level 4 expectation of pristine facilities.
Exactly. Their own experience distorted their perception of reality and progress elsewhere.
Okay, so we've seen how this instinct can really warp our view of geography, economics, even health. what do we do about it? How do we counter this?
Well, the core idea, the sort of master rule, is to constantly question your categories. Don't just accept them.
Be skeptical of your own bins.
Precisely. Actively look for differences within groups you assume are the same. And just as importantly, look for similarities across groups you think are totally different.
Okay, so challenge the categories. Are there more like specific tactics?
Yeah, a few behavioral shifts help. First, beware of hearing about the majority.
What's that?
Because majority can mean anything from 51% to 99%. Always ask for the specific percentage. It makes a huge difference to understanding.
Good point. 51% isn't exactly overwhelming consensus.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And second, when you hear a really dramatic, vivid story or see a striking image,
The kind that sticks in your mind.
yes, ask yourself, is this the rule or is this the exception? Often, the things that grab our attention are outliers, not the norm.
That makes sense. Resist the power of the anecdote.
Or at least put it in perspective.
And maybe the biggest strategy, the most transformative one for me, is really internalizing Rosling's 4 income levels.
Ah, yes, ditching the old developed versus developing worldview.
Completely. That binary is so outdated and misleading. Replacing it with levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 based on income. It just fundamentally shifts how you see global patterns.
It reveals the nuance, right? That huge middle ground.
Exactly. You realize the vast majority of humanity, like 5 billion people, are actually in levels 2 and 3. Not extreme poverty, not high income, but somewhere in between progressing. It breaks that us versus them mentality.
It's a much more accurate and honestly more hopeful way to see the world.
What a deep dive this has been.
Ah.
Really thinking about how we categorize and generalize is just key to a clearer, more fact-based view of things.
It really is. And maybe this raises a final question for you, the listener, to think about.
Yeah.
The next time you encounter a practice or a belief or maybe just a situation somewhere that seems strange or backward or just plain wrong from your perspective, try asking Hans Rosling's really powerful question. In what way could this possibly be a smart solution for the people involved?
Shifting from judgment.
To curiosity. It forces you to look for the context, the unseen reasons. It turns potential judgment into, hopefully, genuine learning. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Have you ever noticed how our brains just seem to love, well, simple answers? Especially for really complex problems, it feels almost too neat sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a default setting, isn't it? That
Yeah.
immediate sense of clarity is so tempting.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into something Hans Rosling called the single perspective instinct. From his amazing book, Factfulness. It's basically this universal urge we all seem to have to find that one cause, that one simple explanation, or maybe that one magic bullet solution for, well, pretty much everything.
Yeah, and what's really interesting, I think, is that this instinct, it's not about intelligence. It's not a flaw of the, less intelligent. It's actually a cognitive shortcut we all use. It promises clarity, makes things feel simple, but that promise can really trap our imagination, actually. It can limit how we see the world. So our mission today is really to get under the skin of this instinct, understand its pitfalls, and, importantly, figure out how you can build a more, let's say, robust and fact-based worldview. More nuanced.
That's fascinating. That's a shortcut, not a flaw. So I guess the question is, why are simple ideas just so darn attractive to our brains? What's the pull?
Well, our brains fundamentally crave simplicity. It gives us that satisfying aha moment,
Yeah.
It feels good. It reduces the sheer mental energy needed to juggle lots of conflicting information. And honestly, it kind of soothes anxiety.
Ah, okay. Less mental work feels better. Makes sense.
Exactly. And this gets amplified hugely by something called confirmation bias. We naturally tend to seek out and notice only the information that confirms what we already believe.
Right. So we build our own little echo chambers.
Precisely. It becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. Very powerful.
Okay, so it's like we're actively filtering reality to fit our preferred story. But what about really smart people with lots of knowledge? Surely they can see past this, right? Aren't they kind of immune?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But paradoxically, sometimes the most knowledgeable people are actually quite vulnerable here.
Yeah.
Rosling makes this great point that experts are often, experts only within their field.
Okay.
And because of that focus, they can end up exaggerating the importance of their problem, or maybe their specific solution.
Ah, like the saying, if all you have is a hammer.
Exactly. That's Maslow's hammer. If the only tool you have is a hammer to treat everything as if it were a nail. Rosling gives this striking example. a Danish doctor in India back in the 1950s, the top tuberculosis expert. He launched this huge X-ray campaign, totally focused on TB, but that single-minded focus meant he completely missed the community's other massive health issues, things like basic sanitation, nutrition, broader problems. His expertise actually created tunnel vision.
Wow. That's a really clear example of specialized knowledge becoming a blind spot. So if that's how it works for individuals, even experts, what happens when this scales up? Like with big ideologies, can one single idea really explain everything that way?
Well, that's where it gets particularly dangerous, I think. Rigid ideologies are maybe the ultimate form of this single perspective instinct. They can make people almost completely blind to any evidence that contradicts the core belief system.
Filters out anything that doesn't fit the narrative.
Totally. Rosling uses this great comparison between Cuba and U.S. healthcare to show this. Look at Cuba from one angle, and it's the healthiest of the poor. Great child survival rates for its income level.
Okay.
But shift the angle, and it's the poorest of the healthy.
Yeah.
You see the economic limitations, the lack of freedom impacting overall well-being.
Right. Different perspectives reveal different truths.
Exactly. And the U.S. celebrated for medical innovation, right?
Sure.
But it's also the sickest of the rich. We spend vastly more per person on healthcare than comparable rich countries, yet have shorter life expectancies and huge inequalities in access and outcomes.
So sticking to one ideological lens just gives you these misleading comparisons.
Absolutely. Instead of actually benchmarking properly with data, you just pick the angle that suits your argument.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense. So the big question then is, how do we fight this? How do we escape this single perspective trap in our own thinking?
The key, according to Rosling, is his central metaphor. You've got to trade that single hammer for a whole toolbox.
A toolbox, I like that.
Yeah. It means cultivating intellectual humility, first off. Being curious. Some key tools he suggests. Testing your ideas. Like actively looking for the weaknesses in your own thinking. And seeing people who disagree with you not as adversaries, but as a great resource, potentially.
Okay, that's a mindset shift. What else is in the toolbox?
Also, crucially, acknowledge limited expertise. Be really honest and humble about what you don't know.
Yeah.
And be critical about the limits of others' expertise, too, even the experts.
Right. So practically speaking, maybe using something like toolbox thinking. Like if you're looking at a problem, say a struggling local school, instead of grabbing the first solution that comes to mind, you'd use what Rosling calls a circle of viewpoints. Look at it economically, socially, pedagogically, from the parent's view, the student's view.
Exactly. You deliberately seek out multiple angles before forming a judgment or proposing a solution. It forces a broader perspective.
Yeah, I can see how that would stop you jumping to conclusions. I've definitely done that before myself.
We all have. And maybe the most critical tool, actively listening to opposing views. Really listening. That means being fully present, trying hard to withhold judgment, at least initially.
And maybe trying to paraphrase what they said to make sure you got it.
Yes. Paraphrase and reflect. Show you're genuinely trying to understand their position and ask genuinely curious questions, open-ended ones, like, help me understand what experiences led you to see it this way.
It sounds like upgrading your mental software almost, from single tasking to multitasking.
That's a great way to put it.
So wrapping this up, bringing it back to you, the listener, what's the big takeaway here? It sounds like true understanding isn't really about being right all the time or winning arguments.
Not at all. It's really about, I think, having the humility to question your own certainty. That's key. And having the curiosity to genuinely seek out different viewpoints, even ones that feel uncomfortable. And maybe the courage to just accept that reality is complex, it's messy, but embracing that complexity gets you closer to what's actually true. Definitely something for you to mull on.
So the challenge for you is to start building that mental toolbox. Next time you face a complex issue, try using that toolbox thinking. See things from a few different angles. You might be surprised at the clarity you find when you stop looking for just one answer. Okay, let's be honest for a second. When something goes wrong, like anything, a mistake at work, maybe something bigger, what's the first thing we do?
Find someone to blame.
Exactly. We jump straight to finding whose fault it is. It's almost automatic. Hans Rosling, he had a name for this, the blame instinct.
And it's so appealing, isn't it? Because, well, it makes a complicated, sometimes scary world feel simpler.
Simpler how?
Well, you get this neat story, right? Heroes and villains. If something bad happened because of a bad guy, then it wasn't just random chance.
Ah, okay. So it feels less out of control.
Precisely. It offers this psychological comfort. Makes us feel like we have a handle on things, even when the real causes are, complex, impersonal forces.
But that comfort, that simple story, it comes at a cost, doesn't it? Rosling warned that it actually stops us from learning.
Totally. He said it steals our focus and blocks our learning.
How does that work? How does blaming someone actually prevent us from figuring things out?
Because once you've pinned the blame, your brain kind of checks out. You
Yeah.
stop asking the deeper why questions.
Like, okay, found the culprit, case closed.
Exactly. And it's more than just a mental shortcut. It's almost a defense mechanism. Think about that fundamental attribution error.
Remind me.
We tend to say other people mess up because of their character, like they're lazy or they're incompetent. But when we mess up,
Oh, it was the traffic, the bad instructions, not enough coffee.
right, external factors. And, the media often plays into this too. Villain narratives are just easier to tell, more dramatic.
Okay, so this blame instinct is powerful, it's comforting, it's everywhere. How do we fight it? This is where Rosling gets really practical, which I appreciated.
Yeah, his rules are deceptively simple, but really effective.
Rule number 1, when something goes wrong, look for causes, not villains. Don't just find a scapegoat. Spend that energy figuring out the multiple interacting factors, the system.
Mm-hmm. And rule number 2 flips it for success.
Yeah.
Look for systems, not heroes.
So even when things go right, don't just credit the superstar individual. Ask, was it really just them? Or did the underlying system, the processes, the team culture play a big role?
And when you make that shift, the impact is huge. Think about the difference between a blame culture at work versus a systems thinking approach.
Okay, break that down. Blame culture.
That's where everyone's afraid to admit mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Fear dominates, communication shuts down, problems get hidden, so they just happen again.
Ugh, sounds familiar. And systems thinking.
That fosters what they call psychological safety. People feel okay speaking up. Mistakes are seen as opportunities to learn and fix the system, not just punish the person.
There's a really powerful real-world example of this in medicine, isn't there? With medical errors.
Oh, absolutely. For decades, the approach was name, blame, and shame. Find the doctor or nurse who made the mistake.
Right.
But then research started showing something different. The vast majority of errors weren't due to incompetent individuals, but to, system failures.
Like what kind of failures?
Things like confusing labels on medication, poor handovers between shifts, maybe even just not having enough staff on duty. Systemic problems.
So realizing that changed things.
Massively. It led to the just culture movement in healthcare. The idea is you need to encourage people to report errors, even near misses.
Why? So you can find the systemic flaws.
Exactly. It's about learning from the errors to make the whole system safer for everyone. It's not about letting people off easy, but distinguishing human error, which happens, from actual reckless behavior. It shifts focus from blaming one person to fixing the conditions for everyone.
Okay, so bringing this back to us, to you listening, how can we use this day to day? Because we all fall into that blame trap.
Definitely. Think about missing a deadline. Your first thought might be, ugh, I'm just so disorganized.
Yeah, or my colleague didn't get me that info on time.
Right. Blame, blame, blame. But Rosling's idea and tools like the 5 whys analysis push you further.
5 whys, how does that work? Quickly.
You just keep asking why. So, why did I miss the deadline? Because I didn't finish the report. Why? I was waiting for data. Why? Their team was swamped. Why? We don't have a clear process for data requests. Why? Our workflows aren't formalized.
Ah, okay, so you went from I'm disorganized or it's their fault to identifying a fixable system problem, workflow.
Exactly. It shifts the focus from finger pointing, either at yourself or others, to constructive problem solving.
It's not about avoiding responsibility then.
Not at all. It's actually taking on a higher level of responsibility. The responsibility to learn, to improve, to build better systems that prevent problems in the first place. Moving from just reacting to proactively building resilience.
So the real goal here, by overcoming this blame instinct, isn't just to feel better or be nicer. It's actually to get better at spotting and fixing weaknesses before they cause a failure.
Precisely. It's about building a safer, more effective world by understanding the complex systems we live and work in, rather than just looking for the easy answer, the villain.
Always questioning, always looking deeper.
Keep digging for those causes. Welcome to the Deep Dive. If you've been following Hans Rosling's Factfulness with us, we've worked through quite a few cognitive instincts. Today, we're diving into what he calls the final hurdle, maybe the toughest one, the urgency instinct. And this isn't just, another bias. Rosling actually paints it as this kind of cognitive master switch. It can apparently flip all those other negative instincts back on fear, blame, negativity, single perspective, while shutting down your rational brain. It's a real now or never feeling that can turn big, complex, global issues into just, overwhelming panic.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is that clash. You've got our ancient wiring, the lion in the grass response, right? Designed for immediate physical threats. And it just doesn't mesh well with these modern challenges that are often slow, abstract, like climate change or tackling systemic poverty. So our goal here today is really to get a handle on this mismatch, understand it, and help you, reclaim your analytical thinking when that pressure hits.
Okay, let's unpack that. Why are we even wired for urgency like this? Why is it so strong?
Well, it's purely evolutionary. It's a relic, really. Our ancestors survived because they reacted fast to immediate danger. There wasn't much time for deliberation back then. Pausing often meant, not surviving. And it's still vital today. Don't get me wrong, for genuine emergencies, like swerving to avoid a car crash. Absolutely crucial, instant reaction saves lives.
Right, okay, so it has its place. But what happens when we take that same instinct, that same quick reaction mode, and apply it to these really complex, layered problems?
That's where it goes wrong. Applying that sort of binary crisis thinking to something like a pandemic response or economic policy, it often leads to really ill-advised decisions, deeply flawed ones. It completely bypasses the nuance, the analysis that these big problems demand. And when it gets triggered, it sets off this cognitive cascade. It cranks up the fear, the blame, makes us think less critically, basically. And weirdly, it can give you this false sense of control, like you're doing something drastic.
It's pretty wild how that ancient brain is still running the show sometimes. So let's talk about how this gets, used, exploited even.
Oh, definitely. Marketers are masters at this. Act now, limited time offer. That's pure urgency, the 24-hour news cycle. It thrives on breaking news, constantly creating a sense of crisis, keeping us hooked. And even, activists with good intentions. Rosling warns they can sometimes exaggerate risks. It becomes a bit like the boy who cried wolf. It can actually drain credibility over time, make people numb.
And in leadership circles, you sometimes hear about the burning platform idea, creating an artificial crisis to motivate people. How does Rosling's take on urgency fit with that?
Yeah, that's a really important point. While the intent might be to spur action, creating that fear, it often leads to bad decisions made under pressure. It fosters this culture of fear, which isn't great for smart thinking or innovation. It just assumes fear is the best driver, but often it just paralyzes people or pushes them to rash choices.
Well, Rosling even shares that really humbling story from his own past, right, as a young doctor in Mozambique.
Yes, that's such a powerful example.
He panicked about this mysterious disease, set up a roadblock, and it tragically led to deaths because people tried unsafe ways to get around it.
A stark reminder from him. Be wary of drastic action. That knee-jerk response can have terrible, unforeseen consequences.
So it feels like this isn't just about individual choices then. It starts to warp our whole information landscape.
Yeah.
Maybe polarizing us into either constant panic or, like you said, cynical numbness.
Exactly. And Rosling connects this directly to 5 huge global risks, where he says a cool head is absolutely essential. These are global pandemics, financial collapse, world war, climate change, and extreme poverty. In every single one of those, he argues, urgent, drastic, panicked action can actually make things much worse.
You can really see that with climate change, can't you? It's slow, it's abstract. Our brains aren't really built to feel urgent about it in the right way. How does that urgency backfire there?
Precisely. The urgency can lead to despair. It's too late. Or push towards really extreme, maybe untested solutions. Whereas the factful path, Rosling's path, is about steady, step-by-step improvements. It's about data-driven policy over the long haul, decades even. And look at extreme poverty again. There's no quick fix. No single drastic action solves it. Progress comes from slow, compounding improvements across many areas: health, education, infrastructure. We tend to demand instant results for these long-term problems, or we ignore risks that seem far away. It's a really destructive cycle.
Okay, so it's a powerful instinct, often counterproductive. What's the antidote, according to Factfulness? How do we fight back against this urge?
The main idea, the sort of overarching philosophy, is simple. Take small steps, don't rush. And he gives 4 specific tools. First, take a breath, just pause. Remember, as he says, it's rarely now or never, and it's rarely either. That binary thinking's a trap. Second, Insist on the data. If someone says something is urgent and important, demand the numbers. Make sure they're relevant and accurate. Shift from pure emotion to actual evidence.
Okay, breathe, get data. What else?
Third, beware of fortune tellers. Be skeptical of anyone claiming absolute certainty about the future. Ask for a range of possibilities, different scenarios, and check their track record. Have they been right before? And fourth, relating back to his Mozambique story, be wary of drastic action. Always ask, what are the side effects? Has this been tried on a smaller scale first? Favor those step-by-step practical improvements instead of radical, untested leaps.
That makes sense. How can you or I actually build this into, daily life? It sounds good in theory.
Well, one practical idea is a pause protocol. Could be simple, like waiting 30 minutes before hitting send on a stressful email, or maybe a 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases, especially big ones push with urgency. And maybe have a go-to phrase for heated moments, something like, okay, I need a moment to think about this properly. It buys you time.
Taking small steps.
Yeah.
You mentioned that's the core idea. Does that apply to personal anxieties too, like breaking down big worries?
Absolutely. It's like applying triage to your own stress. That feeling of, I have to fix my finances now, it's overwhelming, right? Instead, break it down. What's one small, concrete thing you can do this week? Maybe review one bank statement or make one call. It replaces that paralyzing panic with a fact-based, manageable plan. Turns urgency into steady, actionable progress.
It really feels like getting a handle on this urgency instinct is, fundamental. Not just for the world's huge challenges, but for navigating our own lives better too.
Definitely. If you zoom out, it connects to everything else in Factfulness. It's about moving away from just reacting emotionally instantly towards being calmer, more collaborative, and really grounding our decisions personal and societal in facts and careful thought.
So thinking about this urgency instinct, what really stands out to you? How might it be shaping your own views or decisions without you realizing it? Maybe consider how bringing in a bit more patience, a bit more demand for actual data could change how you engage with the world around you.
That's all for this episode of the Deep Dive Cast. Thanks for joining us. We hope you gained some valuable insights. Be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive into the world's best ideas. Until then, keep learning and growing.